All right, welcome everyone again to our Ask Joe call. We're going to get started in under a minute. If you are here live, go ahead and drop your questions in the chat. Today we're going to be talking about the 10 things that are blocking your funding approval. I took the top 68 questions that we've been asked, and a lot of them were similar. So I grouped together the similar questions, and we're going to go through each one by one. If you are here with me live, please go ahead and use the Zoom chat and go ahead and drop in any question that you have. I'll be happy to answer it. And stay to the end because we are going to cover the top question, which is submitted by Scott, who I see. Um, Actually, Scott K, you are here, and Scott M also. The top question is, how can I get approved for my company that has no revenue? My credit is 630. So we are going to get to that. All right. So these are our top 10 questions that were submitted. The first one here has to do with like trade lines and building your business credit profile. So question is how to get trade lines if you can't be put on someone else's credit as an authorized user. This came in from Vincent B. So Vincent, if you're here and as I come to your question live, you guys can definitely interact with me on the chat. Let me open um, the chat. Now you can talk. All right, so now you can type in the chat your questions. And as I come to your question, you can certainly jump in for clarification. So if like ideally when you're looking at the authorized user technique, it does work really well in the business credit industry as far as quickly boosting up your personal credit profile. So an example would be, let's say your highest credit limit is only $5,000. And we know that ideally to get business credit, you want to have a credit limit of at least $10,000 or higher. So what you can do is actually be added as an authorized user to someone else. Usually it's a friend or a family member. And so, for example, if they have let's just say your spouse has an American Express card with $20,000 as a limit, $0 balance, they add you as an AU, authorized user. You don't necessarily have to use the card, but you just get it and you activate it. And now you have a $20,000 highest credit limit on your personal credit profile. Now, AUs don't work as great as they once did in the mortgage industry, but they work great in the business credit industry. I just want to mention that for all the people that will comment down when they see this later, talking about AUs don't work. AUs work incredibly well, and it's a great technique to quickly boost up your personal credit score. Now, the question that Vincent asked though is, what if you can't be added to someone else as an authorized user? There are websites that students of mine have found and have used. If you're going to use them, like personaltradelines.com or tradelinesupply.com, just make sure you do your own due diligence on everything and read the fine print. The students that I've seen use those two websites have had good results though, and they'll spend like somewhere around 600 bucks, and then they'll have an AU on their credit report, actually as low as 300 bucks, and then they'll have an AU added on the credit report for like 60 days. Some reason they quote it as 58 days, but whatever. So 2 months. Now, AUs don't just apply to age. You also want to look at, um, sorry, they don't just apply for credit limit, like having a 20K credit limit on your personal credit profile, but they also work well for age as well. So, for example, an idea of originally how you'd use an AU is if you have maybe a child in your house, like your kid, and they're 16 years old, you can add them as an AU to your card. And now, even before they're 18, they're already establishing credit, which is really cool. What if you're 22 years old and you're trying to get credit and you got your first card at 18 and you only have 4 years of credit history? Well, if you're added to someone's credit card as an AU and it's 10 years old or it's 15 or it's 20 years old, that seasoning is going to help your personal credit profile. Don't listen to the hype or the fake gurus out there telling you, like I see Patrick says, a lot of fake news out there. There still is, yes, that says that these things don't work. Test it yourself. That's how you're going to know. And that's actually why we created Business Credit Workshop. It's because I was looking for funding many years, about 18 years ago, and I got a lot of conflicting information out there. And I said, well, what if I just hold a workshop? And I get small business owners together and I get banks together. And what if we just ask them straight up all these hard questions, right? And then we'll know the answer straight to the truth. So we've been doing that for the last almost 20 years now. And it's so good to have you guys here. You're in the right place. All right. So that's how you could do it, Vincent. Great question. Let's move to question number 9. How to build business credit correctly. This comes in from Jack W. And he says, what exactly do I need in terms of a business credit score? I love this question a lot. If you're in the Facebook groups and some of the chat rooms that talk about business credit, like on Discord or wherever, you're going to see some sort of obsession with business credit score and the color of that score. And that comes from the personal credit world, right? We know with personal credit, a good score would be like 687, 730 or higher. And if you're in the green, that's really good. If you're in the yellow, not as good. If you're in the red, not great. But in terms of business credit, there's no exact minimum score. And there's three business credit bureaus that you want to focus on. So you have Dun& Bradstreet, you have Experian, and you have Equifax. If your Equifax score is the one everyone always emails me about, and you'll log in to nav.com, hopefully you have the Nav Prime account so you can monitor and track your business credit profile, but also to boost up your business credit score. And if you click on Equifax under credit health, you can see what your Equifax business credit score is. One positive reporting trade line on Equifax will actually put you into the red. And you might look at that and go, oh no, that red's bad, right? Or my score is bad. It's only a 375 and it can be up to like a 500 or 600. Like, what's wrong? And nothing's wrong. You're actually way better off than the guy with zero trade lines. Okay. So business credit score, not extremely important. If you are taking notes today, jot down that the most important thing is more of the number of positive reporting trade lines. So with Equifax, you have that one positive reporting trade line. That's better than zero. Your target should be two goals. Long term, our goal is to have three trade lines or more on all three business credit bureaus, Equifax, Experian, Dun & Bradstreet. Our short-term target, like for example, if you join NAV right now, because we're at the end of the month, within a few weeks, you will have your first positive reporting trade line. So that is the initial goal when building business credit and also getting business funding, like business credit cards and lines of credit, is to have at least one trade line, positive reporting trade line on all three business credit bureaus. And then down the road, you want to grow that to three. So it's the same story with Experian. It's the same story with Dun & Bradstreet. The only differences with Dun & Bradstreet is that when you have three trade lines reporting positively and you hit that longer term goal, you do get an 80 paydex score. So that is a good thing to have. It's like the first big score that you get, and you should definitely celebrate that. But remember, we're not so obsessed with score as we are with number of positive reporting trade lines. And the purpose of that, it's actually two purposes. If you want to get the few options are available for like no PG business credit, then what I just said to you is very applicable. And then if you're looking to get business credit cards and business lines of credit, those do require PG, like personal guarantee. Then what I just shared with you, super applicable. Let me know, Casey, like what exactly you're looking for. I like the question there. As far as like how to contact me, you would just email us. But if you have something very specific, I'd love to cover that with you. All right, number 8. Eighth question. This comes from Erica. And she says, I was denied for business credit with my credit union. What should be my next step? I have a 700 score. And this is kind of in that topic of like getting denied or fixing your profile. What do we do in that case? If you have a 700 credit score, the first thing I would look at is what's your FICO score 8. So credit score and FICO score are two different things. I use myfico.com, pay the top tier plan that they have so that I can get updates every single month. FICO score 8, and again, if you are watching this on YouTube, you're going to see a lot of excitement around like FICO score 9 and all these trending things. The majority of lenders, like more than 90% of them, are still using FICO score 8. So you might as well know the score that the lenders are using. So FICO score 8 is important. It's different than credit score. And you might have a 700 credit score, maybe you have a 650 FICO score. We don't know. That's the first thing that I was thinking of, is like, let's find out where you are, Erica, and then kind of build from there. So go to myfico.com, or you can use different websites. You go to Experian.com, but get that real FICO score. And if you're still having trouble getting denied, look at what we do here at Business Credit Workshop is we look beyond just score, right? So in the personal credit world, it's not just 700 credit score or FICO score. You also want to look at your highest credit limit, your credit utilization, and your age. So we talked about age earlier. We talked about a lot of that actually came up on an earlier question. So you have the age of your oldest account, you have your highest credit limit, and then you have your credit utilization. So you could actually have a 700 credit score and your utilization may not be that great. And you want to have ideally personal credit utilization at a minimum 25% or less. You can get approvals up to 50%, but you want to set that first target as 25% or less. And then there's actually a sweet spot, like a longer term goal to get your personal credit utilization at between 1 and 2%. Usually that is the sweet spot for obtaining for getting business funding and getting business credit. All right, now I do have another side of my brain that's thinking, I have another way I could actually answer this question, which is if your credit union denied you, you might just be with the wrong credit union. That's all. So maybe they're great in one area, but not as great in lending. What I would do, in addition to what I just shared, is actually start to do a little backyard banking. So, for example, I'm in New Jersey, and Financial Resources Federal Credit Union is a great local credit union. They host events for small business owners. They attend events for small business owners. They're on Facebook. You know, you can network with them, and a lot of these um, community banks and credit unions are portfolio lenders, which means they lend their own money and they make their own rules. And I can tell you that one credit union where I live could be in a great lending mood and I could get approved with them, right? Another credit union could be right down the block and maybe they're in a bad lending mood or they don't even lend their own money and they're just not, it's not a match. So you would just have to try a different credit union. That could also be part of what's going on, Erica. Patrick has a quick question, which is, can you name the best trade lines to apply to? And you mentioned Granger. Granger is a good one. Another one would be eCredible, Nav Prime, and the new Lily account is good. It reports to Dun& Bradstreet. So Nav, eCredible, Granger, the Lily business credit card, which is secured, but no personal guarantee, no credit check, or anything like that. So in addition to that, Uline and Quill are still great, Patrick. So those are good ones. KC Fabric, just yeah, email us info@businesscreditworkshop.com. We could help you out. That's the best way to get some help from us. And we could talk a little bit more on that as far as like what your question is. I'm not trying to I if you have a specific question, just write it as like one sentence like Patrick did. It's super easy for me to answer. Um, but yeah, these are good questions. Keep them coming. All right, question number 7. How much funding can I realistically access through business credit? I want to chart a path to 300K. This is from Terrell. Is Terrell here today? I don't know if you're here live. Maybe you could either be here on Zoom or over on YouTube. By the way, if you are here on YouTube, I see some people watching right now. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you want more videos like this. So I'm going to show you guys a cool resource because this is a great question is like, and I talked about this with some partners that I have this morning, is like, what does that look like as far as a path to getting funding? So let me give you a link so we can do this together. And if you need to know how to get here, businesscreditworkshop.me, that's our blog/resources. You'll be here in the right spot. If you're here with me live, I'm just going to drop the link right there in the Zoom chat. All right, guys. So on here, we got the 30-day approval plan. And I mentioned this in another video that I have here. It talks about like how to build business credit in 30 days. So if you're ever looking like, oh, how do I find that? This is where it is, by the way. So this would be the path, 4-week path. And we have every step, what to do day 1, day 2, like day 7, I put rest, right? Day 8, get your DUNS number, etc. So this is a really great resource, but I want to kind of fast forward to this step right around here is about 3 weeks into that 30 days. You want to start to meet and call local bankers. So if I jump back to the question, which is like realistically how much can I access through business credit? It's a hard question to answer because I don't know what you're going to do. It's like asking a bodybuilder realistically, can I look like Arnold Schwarzenegger or something like that? And it's like, well, oh, how much, what are you willing to do? Are you willing to give up 20 years of your life, eat grilled chicken and like white fish every day? Um, take creatine, like that's such, it's a tough one. So fair disclosure, everyone's going to have different results. Everyone has a different profile. Banks have different lending moods and all of that. Out of habit, I like to be conservative. But I know people and myself, you can absolutely get 300,000. You can get more than that. You could actually get over $1 million in business credit without showing tax returns, without showing financials, and that's all called no doc. And the way that you would do that is the way that, and this is what I was telling my partner this morning, is I was like, listen, man, if I worked with you personally and you did exactly what I told you to do, you could realistically, you could clear $1 million in business credit. Now, am I saying everyone watching this video or here with me live today is going to do that? No, everyone's going to have different results, but it is the truth. It's just how much can you put into it? Now, let me show you the path because I like how you said, Terrell, you said chart a path, right? So if you were to chart a path, I would set a goal for 100 grand in approvals about every 30 days. And the way that you're going to do that is through backyard banking. Initially, you're still going to do I had a client came to us from another funding company and they were done the round of funding. I said, how'd the round of funding go? Oh, it went okay. You know, they charge like 7,800, 10,000, something like that, plus 8 to 10%, whatever. I said, okay, cool. How'd it go? He goes, it went okay. This is the business credit cards that he got. Ready? Chase, Elon, Elon. He got 85 grand in funding. Now that's not bad. He actually said it was okay. I said, great. What are they doing for you next? He said, oh no, we're done. I said, you're done. That's it. That's it. That's what's out there, guys. So what we do differently here at Business Credit Workshop is backyard banking. Okay, we roll up our sleeves a little bit and we get to work, and it is the way to get more than 80 grand in funding. That's what happened to me. So when I went and got business credit way back in 2007 was the first credit card I got. First approval I had was Chase. And then I'm like, okay, what do I do now? Okay, Bank of America. Okay, cool. And I found this bank and they use Elon Financial as their underwriter. I'm like, all right, this is cool. Okay, but now what? I only got, 100K. 100K in 30 days is not bad. It's a good result. I'm not hating on them. All right, no problem. All y'all out there that do it differently than us, that's cool. But what we do differently is we say, well, hold on. How many backyard banks are there in my state that I haven't reached out to yet? And we have a resource in our community, and I'll pull it up for you guys, and I'll drop the link, and I come here very often. And this here is some of our top lenders. Okay. And I'm going to go lenders by state. You can just Google this or you can grab this link. I'll drop it here in the chat. Okay. So what you do is this is how we do, this is one of the many methods that we use. Okay. It's an easiest one to explain. So I like to explain it here on these Ask Joe calls, which is go use this link. It's the top SBA lending banks in your state and go, like for example, I don't know what state you are in, but let's say you're in New Jersey, right? So you type in New Jersey, you start looking at these banks, and a lot of these banks are portfolio lenders. They're backyard banks. They only have a few branches. They're regional banks. This is where you can get a lot of business credit cards from. I have over 20 business credit cards just in New Jersey from just this database alone, which means after you get the 3 to 4 business credit cards, like all the other business funding companies get you, we have another, like I wrote in that email last week, I got another 18 banks I could hook you guys up with. Okay. So I teach you how to do it. Of course, a couple of people are asking for the Done For You program. I do offer a Done For You program. If you're dropping your email in the chat, we're not going to email you. You got to email us info@businesscreditworkshop.com, but this is not a sales pitch. Okay. So we do offer to do it for you, but I've been an educator first, which means I'm going to teach you exactly what we're doing. And if you decide, hey, do the Done For You, no problem. We'll do it for you. In the meantime, Google this report or use the link I dropped. Look at these top banks here. There's probably is like about maybe in New Jersey's about 125 banks on this list. And then I found another 75 banks through our process. And so we have over 200 banks that we interviewed in our state. And we asked them all, how much do you offer business credit cards? Right? And so if you watch me on other calls, you could see that I've done this live, right? So we have TD Bank. So I go to TD Bank. Um, Let me use a different browser, keep it fresh. So I'm going to go to TD Bank and I go on their website. And the first thing I do, so I have this list, then I go on these websites. This is exactly, I'm charting the path for you, just like you asked. This is how you're going to get 300K. That's your goal. And you could do this, go double that if you want. Maybe you'll get less, maybe you get more, but this is how you can do it. And if you qualify, I mean, all these business credit cards are no doc, unsecured. They don't ask for a balance sheet, which means you can continue to stack these business credit cards, stack, 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 stack. So you can get millions of dollars in funding if you can keep up with it and all of that. Please use business credit to invest in cash flowing assets to generate your revenue, like an e-commerce business, real estate, or another business, something that makes sense for you. Don't inundate yourself with credit, right? Use it to buy assets that bring you cash flow. Okay, so we go to TD Bank, and then I just do two things. I'm going to go through their website, I'm going to find the products that they have, and then I pick up the phone. I just did this on Friday with my funding specialist, my outreach managers, and right there in front of them, I called the bank. Cadence Bank, by the way, in Utah, if you happen to be in Utah, they offer their own business credit cards, a portfolio lender. It's not on any one of my competitors' lists, but I know about the bank, right? Because I'm teaching you how I do that. So I call up the bank and I say, it's a 2-minute phone call. Hey, do you offer business credit cards? Yes, we do. Great. What's the process to apply? By the way, while you got you here, is it your own card or is it offered through a third party underwriter? And we work with the banks that offer their own business credit cards. And you start to put together a list. You can come up with 25 banks that you could apply with. That's extremely powerful. And maybe you do 5 or 6 applications at a time. You spread it out over 60 days. Over the next 3, 6 months, you can get significant amounts of business credit doing this. In fact, your goal, right, was 300K, right, Terrell? And that's 100% very doable. All right, Casey has a question for corporate vehicles or lines of credit, 100K or other resources to get the largest amount of money for corporate vehicles. Can you discuss this? We have some resources on corporate credit for vehicles. Just go to our YouTube channel and I give you all the banks. But by the way, Casey, TD Bank, which is just on the screen, offers vehicle financing. It's not on their website either. And that's kind of the point of our program. The way that we work is a lot of the programs we know about, they're not listed. They don't have a flyer. You got to call them, right? And that's what we do. We call over 4,000 banks to build this database. So TD Bank is a great one. Ally Financial is another one. And those are the top two that we use. I've done a whole bunch of videos on that topic, so it's really good. Bryce Holmes, what's up, man? How are you? Welcome to the call. If you were to do multiple rounds of funding every 30 days, doesn't that look bad to lenders at many inquiries? Thank you for asking that question. It's a great question. So if you didn't hear it, we're doing lots of rounds. What about inquiries? So our position is like we don't get too involved in the inquiries. I know there's plenty of students that will clear their inquiries or delete them or dispute them or whatever, and that's no problem. It's your business, not mine. There's attorney firms that legally can help you facilitate the inquiry removal process. So it's totally cool if you want to look into that. What we tell people to do is, let's say we do 5 or 6 applications and we're spreading it out. I said right around 60 days apart. But if you look at like our funding documents that we have or our training or our coaching documents or like our process, and if you don't have any of my programs, that's fine. Just pen and paper. How many inquiries do you have in the last 60 days? So I have a client in New Jersey here. His name is Sal, and he attends our local real estate investment club. And he has about 60 inquiries, Bryce, on his credit report. Half of the banks that he meets with, he can still get approved with. The other half kick him out of the bank. You got too many inquiries. Now, the reason it works that way for him is that he's working with local community banks and credit unions and one branch banks, right? The big, large banks like the BOAs, the Chases, Amex, they all have formal rules about too many inquiries and you won't be able to do it. So, what we normally do, Bryce, so I think you're part of one of those programs is we'll initially do some of the bigger national stricter banks and then we'll move into some of the local community banks, some of the credit unions that are, I call it inquiry sensitive. So they're less inquiry sensitive. And what that means is that they're really only looking at the last 60 days of inquiries. But for those of you that are here with me live, I'll give you an advanced tip. The reason I asked you to write down on pen and paper or on a Google Doc or something like that, how many inquiries you have in the last 60 days, break it down into bureau. So in TransUnion, Bryce, how many inquiries do you have in the last 60 days? On Equifax, how many inquiries do you have in the last 60 days? On Experian, how many inquiries do you have in the last 60 days? Write all that down because what you could actually realize is you might say, man, I got a lot of inquiries on Experian, but I don't have any on TransUnion. Now, I know that Fulton Bank in New Jersey uses TransUnion. So I could actually apply with that bank and have no problem with the too many inquiries issue. It just depends on if you have a process to sequence things and if you're tracking all this information. All right, great question though. Thank you for asking. Next question. By the way, are you guys liking this so far? Y'all enjoying this? Let me know. Um, I like these questions that are coming in. So we got the questions that were sent ahead of time, and we got those that are with us in the chat live. So thank you guys for being here. All right, number six, best banks to apply to. What are the best banks to apply for business credit in lines right now? This is from Stephanie. So I guess accidentally I crossed over into that out of habit. It's literally the the banks that I was just covering. Where did I put them? Right here. So these are the best banks. Like the TD Bank, for example, they have a new business credit card product. I have a student that has three business credit cards with TD Bank. Now the old TD Bank product, business credit card, prior to like 6 months ago, it's not that card, it's the new one. Patrick says, great information from a proven source. Thanks. And you're very welcome. So these are the best banks. All you need to do is just drop in what state you're in. So if you're in Delaware, you click on DE and you start looking at these banks. The way they figure this data out is they look at who the top lending banks are to small business owners in every state. And even though we're not trying to get an SBA loan, we're using that data source to find out who are the most small business friendly banks. And we know that they love small business. Guys, by the way, and I might be jumping around here is probably another question I'm supposed to wait to answer on, but I can't help myself. When you call these banks, like if you call TD Bank, or you call City National Bank of Florida, let's look them up because I don't know, it's fun to do this. So, right, here we go. Okay. CNB, I think, yep, maybe not. City National Bank. Yep. So when you call these banks, you're looking for a point of contact at the bank. Usually they're a business relationship manager or vice president of business lending. You'll know when you're on the phone with the right person because a lot of times y'all know what an avatar is? Like I have a customer avatar, right? Many of my customers are real estate investors. A lot of people that are on my list are e-commerce store owners. A lot of people here are buying another business, right? So that's my avatar. I know how to reach you if I know what you look like. The same thing at the bank. The avatar for your point of contact at the bank, vice president of business lending or relationship manager, a lot of times they own a business themselves. They have a side hustle. A lot of times they've worked there 5, 10 years. They've been in banking 20 years. They have rapport at the bank. They have rapport with the underwriting department. That's your guy. That's the person you want to work with. You need an advocate at the bank to help you get approved. That's the pro and the con, right? So the con is you need to like pros and cons, right? You need to spend a little bit of time to build that contact. But how many people on this call are married, right? Good relationship takes some time to build. What do you got kids? Same thing. So having a relationship with a bank is a good thing. It takes a little while. Okay, you can't just go online to City National Bank and apply for the business credit card, right? You should open a business checking account first. You should be a client. $100 minimum deposit's fine. And you want to have a contact at the bank that knows what they're doing. Now, can you sometimes do it online? Yeah. Can you sometimes just find a teller that barely makes anything per hour, hates their job, and wants to leave at 5 p.m. and still get approved? Yeah. But just know that's not exactly what you're looking for. It's not your ideal avatar. Okay. Am I making sense so far? Thumbs up. All right. So those are the top lenders and what your point of contact looks like, smells like, and feels like. All right. Let's go back to the PowerPoint. Oh, also, I have a list if you're interested in getting like on the SBA bank database. You have to click on all 50 of those states and then like you can export them and then you can add other banks and create a big spreadsheet. And now you have all 50 states. And I was thinking in my head, why doesn't someone do that and kind of add all that together and add their own resources? So I created for $7 the funding database. So if you want the funding database, this is another source. I'll drop the link below of where you can find where all the banks that are lending. It's $7. It includes a lot of training, including a recap of what I just shared with you here. So if you're interested in finding the top local banks in your state, $7, you can go ahead and buy it right now. And it's an easy way to have a lot of the information provided for you as opposed to manually downloading all the data and all of that. This is a QR code here that you can also scan right here if you want to scan that, and that'll bring you directly to the page. Okay. All right, number 5, next question. I have a small business and we haven't made revenue, but I need funds to grow and for staffing. This is from Diana B. So my I would imagine the question is, how do I get the funds to grow with no revenue, right? The answer is you need to find startup friendly banks. Now, the good news is a lot of banks are startup friendly. You just don't know that because if you call 10 banks, 9 of them will require tax returns. 1 out of 10 is startup friendly and allows projections. And you should do a business plan also. It will definitely make things easier. I'm just reading another question that came in. I can't wait to answer that one. So it'll definitely make things a lot easier if you have a business plan. And there are banks that expect you as a startup business to make projections, and they'll lend you based off of those projections. And so what you need to do is if you want, I don't know, 50 grand in business credit, maybe that's between like 1 and 3 business credit cards. Okay, so maybe 15K a pop, or Chase and Citizens that go up to 50K each, right? So it just depends. It could be between 1 to 3 business credit cards. So you might need to make 30 phone calls to find 3 banks that are startup friendly. But good news, Diana, if you've been watching, what I just shared with you is I've been dropping the banks the whole time, right? So I've given you a whole bunch of them. I just mentioned another one a few seconds ago. Financial Resources, Federal Credit Union, Chase, Citizens, in case you missed it. So there's a lots of opportunities out there for business owners that have not made any revenue yet, and you need the funds to grow your business. All right, I'm going to jump actually to Mike's question. He says, I've done an initial round of funding. 0% business credit cards 10 months ago is approved for 123,000. So congratulations, that's great. I want to do another round of zero interest cards, but I really like to get some business lines of credit. My business will be 2 years old in May 2026, which is less than 3 months from now. Is getting lines of credit doable? So yes, Mike, it is doable. It's exactly what I do, right? So when you have an entity that's more than, I'll give you a link to go to, see if it works first before I drop it. So if you want, I'll answer your question, but also since you've done the done for you funding before, if you want us to take a look at that to help you get business credit cards that a lot of these other funding companies have never even heard of, and business lines of credit, that is what makes us unique. We do both. You can go here to the link I just dropped here in the chat, and you click on apply now. And if it's a match, then we'll set up a time to chat with you about how we can help you get lines of credit and business credit cards as well at 0%. So great question. It was a yes or no question. Is getting lines of credit doable? The answer is yes. You just need your LLC to be 2 years older or more, and it will be in just a few months. So you could actually start now. We could do a bunch of business credit cards, and then your next round we'll do about 60 days apart. That could be the lines of credit. All right. So that's that. That's wonderful. This is another question. We're getting down to like nitty-gritty questions, okay? So if you're still here with me live and you have a question, make sure you drop it in the chat so I can answer you. Okay. This is a big one from Scott, and I thought I saw Scott here. He is here. Scott, welcome. So this is your question. So pay attention, please. And if you need clarity or further, like go deeper or whatever, just type it in the Zoom chat, and I'll make sure to answer you. That's advantage of pre-submitting a question and showing up live is you get a little bit more attention. Okay. So the quick question here is, what's the FICO score, credit score necessary today? Right. So that's the part I bolded, but I'm actually going to go through the whole question because I love details. So what is the FICO credit score necessary today for acquiring business credit cards for a newly formed company? Now, the short answer we kind of talked about earlier, you want to be above 700, 680, 730 or higher. But remember, it's not just about FICO. We want to look at not just the score, what's your credit utilization, what's your age on your personal credit profile, and what's the other thing? Utilization, personal credit utilization. And then what you want to look at is your business credit score. So, do you have at least one trade line on Experian, Equifax, Dun& Bradstreet? And then if we even go further, I don't know if I talk about this somewhere, but in case I forget, you want to look at your SBSS score, your small business scoring service. If you have an account with Nav, like we use the Nav Prime account, it monitors and tracks our business credit scores. It boosts up our business credit scores. They give you the SBSS score, and you want to have that be above 175. Okay. That's a blended score on Experian between business and personal, by the way. Okay. So that's the quick answer. But let's go a little bit deeper on your question. So I understand that they will not likely report on your personal credit score after you obtain the business credit card. That is true. But they often need to do a soft pull or hard pull in order to approve your company. Yes, that's also true. And then your question is that avoidable? And the answer is not really. They're going to do a soft pull or a hard pull. So it's just going to happen. You're doing unsecured, no doc, business line of credit, business credit. They're going to check your credit of you or your credit partner. So it could be a credit partner. Like in the beginning, I used a partner in my business, family friend of many, many years, 20 years, and it was his cousin. So friend of the family or cousin, family of the family, right? Uh, and I was didn't have great credit. And I said, hey, you know what? I got the business. It's got great business credit score. You be the credit partner. If I screw this up, your credit's going to be jacked up and you're on the hook for the debt, and we're both in a lot of trouble. If I do well, then not only will I get 100 grand in business credit, but I'll give you 50% equity in my first three deals. Lucky for me, it went well, which means my credit partner got paid back in full. We released them from the debt obligation, and they made a lot of money because they're a partner in my real estate business for the first three deals. So credit partner is a great thing. It could go good, it can go bad. But the FICO score is looked at of you or your credit partner. Just know that. Okay. Obviously, you put that stuff in writing, make sure everyone's on the same page if you go down that route. All right. Whoa, look at that transition. That was accidental. Question number two, using a credit partner. Marie K, are you here? Marie K. So I don't have a strong credit score. It's low, 600. My father, FICO score 800, is willing to be a credit partner. How do I go about utilizing his credit score to develop my LLC credit? What would that look like in terms of credit cards and lending? So I think you understand the process. Is always two ways to teach something, right? Is like the concept behind something, but then also like the over the shoulder OTS, like literally, what does that actually look like in terms of business credit cards? So let me show you. Let me show you. Let me log into my client portal here and let's go to the business credit card mastery program. Let's click on applications, sample application, right? I put a fair disclosure. You double check your numbers with your accountant, okay? But this is like what it looks like. Is the top of your business credit card application would be the information about your business. Great question, right? And then the bottom of the business credit card application is the principal or the officer. So in this case, our credit partner, your dad, could be the CFO of your business, the chief financial officer. Majority ownership is required. So in this case, we gave 95% ownership to the credit partner. And then that would mean that I only own 5%. Since I own less than 20% of the business, the bank is not checking my personal credit. And that's exactly what we're trying to do with a credit partnership, right? Now, I said here, the credit partner was used, hence 95% ownership and CFO title. Make sure you have all your docs lined up. It doesn't matter if it's a family member, have a letter of understanding and agreement. Make sure everyone knows what's going on. Here's our plan if it goes well. Here's our plan if it goes bad. You're the chief financial officer of the business. Here's your responsibilities. All of that. Just put it out in writing, put it on an operating agreement as well, and just have a clean folder. Okay. So great question. Thank you for asking. And I hope that answers your question as far as what would that look like in terms of credit cards. All right, number one question. How can I get approved for my company? There's no revenue and my credit score is 630. This is a new bookkeeping company from Scott M. So this is a great question. And we actually, if you've been paying close attention to the whole video, you actually know a lot of the elements of this answer already, but let me piece it together for you. Number one, the no revenue thing is not that hard. We're going to work with community banks, credit unions, startup friendly banks. And I mentioned them all throughout the video. And then number two is the credit score part of being 630. That is a little bit low. So you actually have two options. You can do credit repair and credit improvement, or you can use a credit partner. Now, we just talked about how to use a credit partner. That would probably be the quickest option. You're going to have to bring someone in. As far as credit boosting, maybe you have time to go do this. You can look at, besides like deleting inquiries and not inquiries, but like deleting late payments and cleaning up your credit and stuff like that. There's credit improvement things that you can do. There's so many cool platforms and apps that you can use right now to boost up your personal credit score. And I would look into that. I know Credit Strong is one of them that someone just brought up today on this call, and take the steps necessary to boost up your personal credit score. So one of my students, his name is Mike, what we did is we had him get a secured loan, personal loan through a credit union. He's going to pay it off over the next 6 months. That's going to make our anticipation is, right, is that that's going to make a really positive improvement on his credit profile because now he can see, now banks can see that he borrowed money and paid it back. So there's a lot of things that you can do to get that 630 like over that 680 mark, that 700 mark. And while you're doing that, that's what I had to do is while I was improving my credit, which mostly for me was a utilization issue, you can use a credit partner. Now, what I did, and I'm glad if you're still here with me live, you can hear this. What I did is I transferred my debt over to my business. And that boosted up my personal credit incredibly well because now I look virtually debt free.